These are some of the images that many people have of Japan. Although this was mid to late December, these scenes show no signs of Christmas. In contrast, scenes like these are more commonly associated with Christmas in the West. Yet all these scenes are also from Japan. Indeed, Japan has a long history of celebrating Christmas, despite the fact that less than 1% of Japan is Christian. Christmas has been called the first global consumer holiday, and Japan offers an interesting context in which to examine what such globalism means. Questions to be considered here include 1. What makes Christmas so popular in Japan? 2. How is Japanese Christmas different from Western Christmas? And thirdly, is Japanese Christmas a case of Westernization or U.S. cultural imperialism? It is clear that the concept and events of Christmas are enormously popular in Japan. Consider, for example, these scenes of huge crowds walking through a huge lighted luminaria set up on the streets of Kobe each year. A part of the answer to the question of why Christmas is so popular in Japan lies in its fantasy nature. Like Japanese fascination with anime or animation, manga or comics, monster films, and other fantasy genres, Japan takes well to the fun and fantasy of Christmas. The central character in the Japanese Christmas is not Christ, from which the holiday gets its name, but Santa Claus. As these scenes suggest, playing with Santa during the Christmas season is fun.
Your wish comes true. And come up to the third floor and get a start.
Even the pastor of a Christian church in Japan reconciles the prominence of Santa as he explains how he responds to children's questions about him.
サンタクロースっていうのは昔ね貧しい人とか苦労している若者のためにねとても良いことをした聖人であってそのセント・ニコラウスというね聖人からサンタクロースというクリスマスっていうのは私たちに神様がね一番大切なプレゼントであるイエス・キリストをくださったプレゼントしてくださった日なんだよっていうそうやって神様が私たちにとてもいいプレゼントをしてくださった。
There is also a fascination in Japan with what are called kawaii, or cute characters. Evidence of kawaii can be seen in these fanciful home Christmas decorations. These Japanese Christmas cards, these Japanese Christmas stockings with Hello Kitty and Mickey Mouse characters, and Japanese department store window decorations. As the manager of Universal Studios Japan sees it, kawaii characters in their Christmas show appeal strongly to young women.
若い女性にとっては、ああいったキャラクターがショーをするということ自体非常に興味があるし、可愛いというキュートだという印象を持っていただけるので。
The Japanese also find numerous ways to make jingle bells kawaii. Fascination with kawaii also shows up in the lighted exteriors of some homes, as the head of the Japan Illumination Society notes.
ないんですけど、やっぱりこんな商材扱ってると、 可愛いのが多いですよ。
日本人は、
お子さん向けが多いんですよ。
なるほど。
サンタクロースとかあんなシーソーにしてもね、あそこのはしごなんか人気あるんですけど。
Besides its fantasy or kawaii character, there is also a sense in which Christmas may fit with the Japanese aesthetic sensibility, as the pastor in our study observed.
で独特の美意識とか、いうのもあると思うんですけども、こう年末の雪の降るような、時期にですね、とても綺麗なクリスマスのデコレーションがあったり、ろうそくの光があったり、そういう一つのイメージがですね、最初はおそらく欧米に対する憧れのようなものと一緒に入ってきて、それが何か日本人の感性に非常にうまくフィットしたっていうようなところはね。
The pastor's mention of New Year's brings up the issue of how Christmas differs from the Osebo holiday that occurs about the same time of year. Whereas Osebo is seen as an obligatory hierarchical gift-giving occasion, Christmas is seen as an occasion of giving gifts from the heart. It is especially popular with young couples for this reason, as the manager of the Ritz-Carlton explained. And the sorts of gifts that people give for Osebo would not be the sorts of gifts they give for Christmas then?
No, no.
Totally different.
Yeah, totally different. Yeah. Okay. No, because the Christmas gift is still like for the kids it's a nice toy, or for the girlfriend it's a nice something, shiny or whatever, something from those nice names around the hotel, right?
Right.
So, but no, Cebu is more like food sometimes, or fruits, or sake or wine set, or something like this, which you probably have seen in department stores, right?
This manager also noted that 95% of the hotel's occupancy is local, and that the hotel and its restaurants are overbooked on Christmas Eve, the traditional day of celebration for young couples. Not only does Japanese Christmas provide a welcome alternative to the obligations of Osebo and other older Japanese holidays, it fits well with another modern Japanese predilection, picture-taking. The second question we posed asks how Japanese Christmas is different from Western Christmas. One answer to this question that may already be evident is that the Japanese Christmas is almost entirely secular. Even for the church nursery school children who helped stage this Advent play at the Presbyterian Church in Osaka, most are not Christian, and their parents do not attend the church. Their fascination is more with seeing their children perform on stage than with the religious story being enacted. Where there is a Christian icon, like the star at the top of a Christmas tree, it may well be adapted to Japan, like this Astro Boy on the tree in the Kyoto train station. There is also a bracketing of the religiosity of Christmas crutches at a confined German Christmas fair held on a downtown Osaka plaza next to what is billed as the world's tallest Christmas tree. Japanese Christmas is the time for another unique Japanese tradition of buying Christmas cakes. Even the children at the Presbyterian preschool, when asked what they wanted for Christmas, unanimously agreed that they wanted Christmas cake. We have already seen how Christmas is more likely to be celebrated in hotels and restaurants in Japan. The manager of the Osaka Ritz-Carlton further contrasts this pattern to Western Christmas celebrations.
It's really like couples means, okay, 24th, Christmas Eve, you have a nice meal and all that, great, it's one day. I mean, the biggest Christmas giving is really between couples. So like 24th, you sit at the table, you spend enormous amount of money for your meal and all that. You have a little present, right? And then, wow!
So most children wouldn't expect to get Christmas gifts?
They will get Christmas gifts, yes, because people still buy Christmas gifts. Couples are, as you know, 24th, Christmas Eve. It's like couples. It's a couples. No family, no kids. Couples. So the fine dining rooms are 100% or 150% occupied with couples.
Wow. What if you took Japanese Christmas and put it in Europe? What would be shocking? Is there anything in the Japanese Christmas that would seem very foreign in Europe?
Yes, definitely that the family spirit is not here, or is less dominant. Like in Europe and I guess in the States the same. You tend to go back to your little house and your little family circle and celebrate, right? And here it's the opposite. Here it's just going out and you do everything outside but not in the house.
Yeah.
So it's just totally opposite.
Another unique Japanese Christmas celebration that we found is one that anticipates our final question involving Westernization. It was a Japanese joint wedding performed under a giant Christmas tree by a singing African-American minister. This wedding has a number of Western elements. Besides the English-speaking American minister, the bride and groom are dressed in Western attire rather than the traditional Japanese kimono worn at Shinto wedding ceremonies. The songs in the ceremonies are Western, as are the reciting of wedding vows and the new tradition of kissing the bride.
This is a present song for the bride and the groom. Hope that you enjoy.
So how, despite these surface-level Western influences and the embrace of the Western holiday of Christmas itself, do the Japanese treat Christmas in a way that reflects something other than accepting global homogenization and succumbing to Western cultural imperialism? We suggest two major ways that have been highlighted by Mary Yoko Brannon in her analysis of Tokyo Disneyland. The first is by making the exotic familiar. The very act of Japanese people donning Santa outfits also helps make the foreign exotic familiar and more Japanese. Similarly, the use of Astro Boy on the Christmas tree helps make the exotic familiar. And mixing English with Japanese also helps familiarize the foreign. The second way that Japan avoids charges of succumbing to global homogenization and cultural imperialism is the opposite of making the exotic familiar. It instead involves keeping the exotic exotic. The idea here is to keep the foreign elements of Christmas not only foreign, but at arm's length from other Japanese traditions that they might otherwise contaminate. The Christmas cake phenomenon in Japan, noted earlier, makes it a point to mark certain cakes as being German, Austrian, French, or Italian, even when such traditions are minor or disappearing in these European countries. Likewise, some of the Santas promoted in Japan are distinctly announced to be Norwegian, Finnish, or Swedish. And one other exaggerated bit of otherness is the Italian red underwear Christmas tree we found in one Osaka department store. It is considered lucky in Italy to wear red underwear at year's end. Another strategy to keep the exotic exotic is to temporarily separate it from the Japanese. The manager of the Ritz-Carlton explained how after December 25th, no trace of Christmas decor remains.
We concentrating on one day, right? It's not like, for us it means like it's a whole time. Right? It's like a whole month plus it continues after Christmas, right? But for here not. It stops on the evening of the 25th. So we take all the decorations off on the 25th in the midnight, and 26th is business as usual.
Physical separation also preserves exoticism. Osebo gift merchandise is kept separate from Christmas gift merchandise in stores. Western liquors are given holiday gift wrappings, while Japanese beers and sake are not. And Western-themed restaurants display Christmas decorations, while Japanese and Chinese restaurants in the same hotel have none. The Western restaurants in the hotel also feature piped-in or live Christmas music, while the Asian restaurants do not. And while public commercial and business district streets display prominent Christmas decorations, traditional Japanese sites such as Buddhist temples, Shinto shrines, the Imperial Palace, and sumo wrestling auditoria lack any of these traces of Christmas. Likewise, the use of gaijin or foreign characters at Universal Studios Japan and restrictions that these characters not speak Japanese helps keep the experience there at arm's length and separate from Japanese culture. By keeping the exotic and foreign, Japan avoids contaminating what are regarded as core elements of Japanese tradition. Keeping the exotic Western culture exotic suggests an analogy to visiting a World's Fair or Disneyland. Christmas is being maintained as a Western culture and is being spectacularized. Just as the consumer at these locales moves from one pavilion to another national pavilion, or from one land in Disneyland to another, the Japanese consumer moves from one national tradition to another. Like the World's Fair, when an exhibition period has ended, the fair disappears without a trace. Christmas elements introduced in Japan from various countries are not mixed together. Each country's Christmas culture is introduced like a country's pavilion at a World's Fair. During the Christmas season, people consume each country's Christmas as if they were at the World's Fair, roaming from one pavilion to another. Because there is no interaction between these stories, each is consumed in an independent way without any concern for integrating them. Just as new attractions are added at Disneyland each year, new Christmas stories are introduced from foreign countries. For example, the Norwegian Santa Claus first came to the Japanese commercial district in 2003. As with the foreign campaign girls at World's Fairs, the cast appears in the world of Japanese Christmas as foreign. At a picture-taking gathering with the Norwegian Santa Claus, many children are crying, bewildered and frightened by the authentic foreign Santa. The Japanese are not familiar with foreigners in their everyday lives. Treated like showpieces, these gaijin or foreigners are one part of the Christmas spectacle. Also, the major language of Christmas is English. Christmas songs and the words that Santa Claus says must be English. Even though both Universal Studios Japan and Hankyu Department Store know that customers cannot understand English, Christmas songs are performed in English rather than Japanese. In this way, as in the World's Fair, by maintaining Western culture as it is, the Japanese differentiate Christmas from everyday life and create an extraordinary time and ambiance. Christmas in Japan is treated playfully, as a fantasy to play with and indulge in, without making it a part of the rest of the Japanese ritual cycle. Japan may or may not be a model for the spread of global consumer culture elsewhere in the world, but Christmas does seem to be one strong indicant of strong consumer culture. It is noteworthy that Christmas is now gaining popularity in many parts of the largely non-Christian world. The Japanese Christmas shows how the holiday may be adopted in such a way that it adds to and complements local culture without replacing, taking away from, or threatening local traditions and practices.